What's up, everybody? If you don't know who I am, my name is Vince. I'm a dog trainer in Michigan, and I run a new leash on life school for dogs. And if you like unfiltered, straight to the point dog training advice that's actually going to help you, this is the page for you, because there's so much shit out there. I got to do this, I got to do that, I saw this, I saw that. And it just makes it so much more challenging for owners. And owning your dog and fixing their issues is actually a lot easier than all these videos make it out to be. So today in our video, we are going to talk about why most dogs develop behavioral issues and they struggle, and why most owners are struggling. There's a couple variables. With every single dog that I work with, there's always going to be these few variables. Now, obviously, we're going to be able to break these variables down kind of into layers, but that will follow in later videos. I'm not going to sit in here for an hour talking about it, but when I break these down for you, it's actually not that hard. So at the end of this video, there's probably something that you are going to learn that you can start implementing today to start seeing results in a short matter of time. I'm not going to say overnight. I'm not going to pitch you some bullshit. Implement this consistently, and I promise you, you will see a change in your dog's behavior, thus your lifestyle over time. So first things first, obedience is ridiculously overrated. There are trainers out there talking like obedience is going to solve all the problems in the world for your dog and for you. Look, your dog can sit and still be fearful. Your dog can sit and still be anxious. Your dog can sit and still be reactive or aggressive. They can sit on their place bed and still be fearful, anxious, reactive, aggressive. Just because your dog can do obedience does not mean they're in a good place emotionally. We're trying to change the emotions of this dog. So there's really three behaviors that you actually need. First and foremost, an out command, because I teach predominantly with playing games like tug, fetch, flirt pull, spring pull, depending on the dog. So if we want to teach within play, we have to have the dog being able to relinquish possession, whether it's a ball or a tug toy, or else we can't really continue on with the game because the dog just possesses it. So a solid out command. I call it an out. A lot of people call it drop it. That's the first command. The second, a recall. Of course, we need safety for a recall. And when we start getting to off-leash reliability, which I'll talk about why it's so important later on, we of course need a recall. The second is some type of formal walk with me command or a heel command. I call it let's go. That just means, hey, we're walking together as a pack. You're gonna need this for tighter situations. Your dog doesn't always need to be in a heel command like so many trainers talk about. You actually rarely need it, but you're gonna want it for tighter environments or tighter situations. And the fourth one isn't really a command. It really doesn't matter what you label it. It could be called a command, but it's a release command. When I say, I use the word free. When I say free, it means go find your own fun. Be a dog, obviously with rules, do's and don'ts, and parameters. There's rule sets to everything we do with our dog. Every interaction we do with our dog, there's rule sets. But when I say free, it means release, go find your own fun, be a dog. Now, a really solid release command is hugely underrated, right? I need to tap into getting this dog to be more of a dog and doing things that makes them feel good. So if we're at the park and I say free and you take off into the woods, you chase a bird, you chase a squirrel, you chase a rabbit, obviously with safety, if I need to recall you, I will. I want the dog doing more of that. That is reinforcement. The lifestyle can be reinforcing to the dog. And if our quality of life, which I'm gonna talk about in a second, if the quality of life is better for the dog, you're gonna see less behavioral issues. So that brings me to my second point, why most dogs and owners struggle. The quality of life. So quality of life is where owners need to shift their perspective on what actually makes the dog's quality of life better. Every dog that I've worked with, they're not lacking with affection. They're not lacking with the couch time and the cookies and sleeping in bed. That's not what makes your dog's quality of life better. I'm not saying they don't enjoy it, and I'm not saying that there's not a time and place for that, but we need to view this from the point of view of the dog, which are domesticated predators, and what is going to make this dog actually more content, more whole, and more happy. So we already talked about two of these things. I talked about play. There's a reason that I teach with play. First off, play checks off so many boxes for you and your dog. But play, the first box that it checks off is it gives a dog a healthy outlet to be a dog. If we don't provide these dogs healthy outlets to chase, to bite, to thrash, guess what they're going to do? They're eventually going to find outlets for that because it's within them genetically. And when they find these outlets themselves, it's always behaviors that we hate. From little nuisance behaviors like digging to tearing up your couch to nuisance barking, all the way to overwhelming fear and anxiety, reactivity, aggression. So we have to give these dogs healthy surrogate outlets or activities that makes them feel content and whole, right? So when we're playing with a dog, we are triggering their prey drive a little bit. So we're giving them a healthy outlet for their prey drive. The second thing that's going to improve quality of life, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, off-leash freedom. Now, not every dog needs a remote collar to be off-leash, but I would never, ever take the risk. Why would I take the risk? I would just eventually use a remote collar to ensure the safety of the dog, to ensure that I can get the response from the dog if they fail to recall. It just doesn't make sense to me. There's people out there, oh, e-collar's sad. What's more sad is your dog takes off and runs into the road and gets hit when you're running through the woods, or he takes off and chases a deer and you never see him again until you leave the park and he's dead on the road. So a 1/10 of a second e-collar tap to ensure the safety of the dog, it's a no-brainer. I'm going to use it. But that's just a disclaimer. Don't start taking your dog off leash unless you've gone through the necessary steps to remote collar train them. If you're not there yet, I highly recommend go make your own long line. Go to the hardware store, buy a little bit of twine, 50 foot, 100 foot, or just buy a leash online. 50 or 100 foot line, you can get the little light clasp to, if you're making your own, to tie the rope onto it. But go get a 50 or 100 foot line. Go to a park, go to a field, maybe. Don't go in the woods, because if the dog, they're going to really quickly get caught up around trees if you got that long line on them. But maybe go along the perimeter of like the woods, you know. Don't do anything. Just let the dog run around and be a dog. They're getting that freedom essentially, but they're not fully off-leash trained. If you do this more, your dog's going to be happier because they're doing more activities that they like. They're doing more activities that make them feel content and whole. Do this more. Your dog's going to feel more fulfilled. It's going to make their quality of life better. So I don't care the breed of the dog. I don't care the dog's issues, whether they have no issues or they have serious issues. I'm never going to restrict a dog from being off-leash trained. That to me is inhumane. They're dogs. They're meant to run around and be free. Now we live in suburban areas and urban areas, and we've taken dogs and we've forced them to live in this lifestyle. No fucking wonder they're developing all these behavioral issues. The dog can't be a dog. We've taken a dog and crammed them into this lifestyle, and no wonder they're getting fear and anxiety. No wonder they're blowing up at other dogs. No wonder they're blowing up at cars or starting to develop aggression. The dog can't be a dog. So if they have no issues and we're restricting them of off-leash freedom, the dog's quality of life sucks. If they do have issues, fear and anxiety, reactivity, aggression, when we allow that part of life to start taking place, when we get them off-leash trained, we're indirectly addressing the issues that they have elsewhere, right? Because off-leash training is part of the healing process for these behavioral dogs. So quality of life. So far we talked about play, we talked about off-leash freedom, and just doing more shit that the dog loves. Maybe add in an additional outlet. I bike ride and I rollerblade with dogs. So bike rides and rollerblades, anything where we can get a dog moving at a more natural pace to them, because we walk slower than a dog's natural pace. So if we can get on a bike ride and start getting a dog grooving and at a little bit more of a natural pace, it starts to release certain hormones. Oxytocin, the feel-good hormone. There's a reason we get runner's high when we run, because our body releases certain hormones. Same thing for our dog. So when we start incorporating those outlets, it's indirectly fixing the dog's issues that may be taking place outside of the bike ride, because we're doing shit that the dog loves. The quality of life as a whole is improving, right? So this is why so many dogs suffer with behavioral issues, is the quality of life. So the last thing is the relationship with your dog. This is where a lot of owners struggle. Every owner I've worked with, there is a relationship issue and a hierarchy issue between them and their dog. So relationship is a balance. Now, everything we just talked about, improving the dog's quality of life, that's gonna benefit your relationship in a way of like, yeah, I fucking love this dude. We do all this fun shit together. We're fucking cool. We have fun. That's the first part of the relationship, but it's a balance. The other part is, does this dog trust me to guide them through challenging situations? Does this dog respect me when I ask of things? This is where a lot of owners struggle. So I like to look at it as love, trust, and respect. We have the love portion down. Every dog and owner that I've worked with, there isn't a lack of love. I promise you, there isn't a lack of love in those households. Now, the trust portion, the dog probably does trust you in the sense that you're not going to harm them, but do they trust you to guide them through challenging situations? Do they look to you in those situations to guide them? No. Most dogs and owners, no, they're missing this portion. And the respect portion. Does the dog respect you when you ask of things? Does the dog respect boundaries with you and them? If they don't, they're not going to respect it when guests come over. Do they respect you when you ask things of them the first time? Do they prioritize the things that you ask of them? No, they probably don't. So there's a respect issue. So here's a tip for you guys, and this is going to improve your guys' lifestyle if your dog is very pushy, very rude of your personal space, very jumpy with you, very rude when guests come by. Maybe they're reactive, maybe they're fearful inside the home. Here's a tip. You need to set boundaries around your personal and intimate space. Why is this so important? Because space is a very highly valuable resource to a dog. It's actually one of the most important, right up there with food. So take a look at resource guarding issues, reactivity issues, dogs that are just disrespectful when you come through the home, dogs that are jumpy with guests. It's all around space, right? Resource guarding is, the resource is important because maybe the dog values certain resources more. However, the space around the resource is what they care about. When they see another dog and they blow up at that dog, what are they trying to do? They're trying to claim and control space, right? Because they feel through the way that we've existed with the dog that it's not our responsibility to handle those situations. It's their responsibility to handle this situation. And a lot of this develops and starts with the way that we live with the dog, the lack of boundaries that we set inside of our home. Maybe it's a free-for-all. Maybe you sit on the couch and the dog comes and bombards you when you sit down. You're like, oh, he's so cute. Or what about those families that say, oh, my dog, he's a 100-pound lap dog. He's just a big lap dog. No, that dog knows where he falls within the family, and you can't get that dog to do jack shit. I promise you. This is not to generalize everybody, but most dogs that I see, right? So, and it's very simple. Just start setting some new spatial boundaries in the home. Start setting rules around the couch. Start setting rules around personal space. If I'm cooking in the kitchen, get out of here. Now is not the time, right? This is not the time and place to come bombard me. If I invite you, cool, right? Then that's a different time and place. But start setting some boundaries there, and I promise you, you will see improvement rather quickly. And another part of relationship and training as a whole is communication. We talk about that all the time. Trainers will be like, communication. The easiest way I can break it down to you is no relationship is good without clear communication. We're speaking English to a dog that doesn't naturally understand English. So it's a conditioning process, right? We have to communicate with the dog in ways that they understand. If our communication is off, there's not going to be clarity to the dog, right? And that's another big thing we talk about often is clarity. And the way I like to explain this is like, if you go apply to a job on Indeed, right? And it's not clear on what your expectations are, or you go to the job and the boss isn't communicating to you about what you're doing right or what you're doing wrong, and then he gets upset at you, well, you're not communicating to me. So there's not clarity in what my responsibilities are. So communication is a big part of training as a whole, but like improving your relationship, right? And we have multiple languages of communication. We have verbal, then we have enforcing languages like leash and remote collar, right? Because verbal is going to fail at some point, and I need you to do it whether you want to do it or not. And that's when we use the enforcing languages like leash and e-collar. I'm going too far down the communication talk now, but that's it. So those are the really two big variables or pillars on why so many dogs and owners struggle. Improve the quality of life so they feel better as a whole. They're less likely to develop behavioral issues. Improve your relationship as well for all the reasons that I just talked about. I hope you guys found value in that. If you did, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.